If you've just settled in for a late night and you're here with me, maybe throw a like or a subscribe if you feel like it, and let me know where you're listening right now. Is it quiet around you, or are there sounds creeping in from outside? Because where I am, it's past midnight, and the rain is knitting a steady rhythm against the thin window pane. That tapping, soft yet persistent, seems to fill the room with a certain hush, like the world has folded in on itself. It's the kind of rain you don't notice at first, but that pulls you deeper in until it's everywhere, in the air, on your skin, drumming on the roof. You're sitting near the back door, the one with the small peephole you haven't bothered to cover. The room feels warm, soft yellow light pooled around a battered armchair, the low hum of the heater fighting the damp cold inching under the door. You're aware of your own breathing, slow and steady, but then it's interrupted. A noise, a faint but deliberate creak beyond the back door. Your heart quickens for a moment, but the rain is busy drowning out most sounds. Still, something low, deliberate, just a step maybe, or the scrape of a boot on wet cement. Then silence. You lean forward, hands resting on your knees, easing toward the door. The smell of wet earth curls in beneath it, sharp and steady. The latch above your hand makes a quiet pop as you tap it. It's sturdy, nothing loose. Certainly no one slipping inside without effort. Outside, the porch light flickers weakly. Somewhere in the distance, thunder drumbles low, rolling through the heavy clouds, like a distant warning you want to ignore. You press your eye to the peephole just in time to catch the dim outline of steps retreating. Soft, slow, careful, like the shadow of a ghost, trying desperately not to be noticed. You keep watching, breath held, until even those faint impressions vanish, swallowed by the relentless rain. It hadn't been there before, you're sure. A stray animal, maybe? But something feels off. The steps are too even, too quiet for a creature. You check the door again. Locked, the chain engaged. Your fingers trace the cold metal latch, while your ears strain against the rain, searching for a sign whether the visitor might return. Silence for a while, save the occasional drip from the eaves and the rustling wet leaves. There's the glow of a street lamp a few houses down, too far to pick up much detail, but close enough that you know no one passed with shoes caked in fresh mud. No fresh footprints framing the porch steps when you gently push the door open to peer out. The ground is mottled, dark with rain, the only sound your own pulse creeping into the quiet. Your phone is on the table beside you, bright with unread messages, but you don't move to check it. The weight of minutes waiting like they're small stones in your chest. You could call someone, a neighbor maybe, but the phone feels heavy and distant, the kind of late hour when strangers sound unmistakably stranger. The rain eases, a slow, thinning drizzle now. The air smells of damp wood, moss, and the faintest hint of burned-out autumn leaves. It's colder. You pull your sleeves down over your hands and settle back into the chair by the window, finger brushing the glass, feeling the cool wetness seeping into the pane. Outside, the backyard disappears into shadow, the fence just a thin line you barely see against the night. You ask yourself if the steps outside were real or a trick your mind played in the quiet hours, when every little noise is amplified into something urgent. Maybe it was just the wind shifting the loose boards on the porch, or someone else looking for shelter from the storm but choosing to leave before you noticed. Or maybe something else, something waiting in the spaces between the drops, holding still just beyond your sight. If you're here tonight, listening this late, maybe tap that like button or subscribe. Let me know where you are, what time it is for you. Because right now, it's nearly 1 in the morning. Outside, the rain has picked up again, tapping lightly against the attic window. That slow, uneven rhythm, like fingers drumming absent-mindedly. pulls you upward into the dim stairs where the house feels cooler, quieter, almost holding its breath. You step carefully on the creaking wood, listening as the patter and occasional soft tap echo through the narrow corridor. The attic isn't finished, cold and dusty, the kind of place you avoid in daylight but feel drawn to tonight for some reason. There's a faint smell of damp wood and old insulation that hangs in the chilled air, along with the sharper scent of rain that slips in through the thin seams of the window frame. Your fingertips brush along the rough plaster walls, grounding you as the rhythm outside picks up again. A light pat, pause, not steady, almost hesitant. Near the window you pause. Outside, the world is blurred by the sheets of rain streaking down the glass. You notice the faint reflection of your own figure, but behind it, in the shadowy yard below, something shifts. Just out of clear sight, the garden feels empty, the cold grass slick and flattened. No footsteps are visible, but the sound of rain presses like a soundtrack that fills any silence threatening to swell. A sudden creak, your own steps shifting on a far wooden rafter, momentarily blends with a different sound from outside, a low shush, like fabric dragging against wet leaves, or maybe the slide of a boot across the porch boards. Your pulse flutters, but you remind yourself to breathe, slow and steady, chest rising, then falling. That's when you catch it, a faint shine near the side gate, maybe a glimmer from a flashlight, or the faint reflection of a distant passing car's taillights. But cars rarely come this late, especially on this quiet, dead-end street. The neighbors are all asleep, their windows dark, yards empty. You press your palm again to the glass, cool and damp against your skin, feeling the small beads of rain collect at the edges. Against the window, the pattern of rain changes erratically, like someone's tapping or tracing shapes from the outside air. You reach for your phone, glance down, 20 past 1 a.m. No missed calls, no alerts. It reassures you for a moment. You swipe the screen off and tuck it back into your pocket. Calling felt like too much, too sharp a crack in the night. Outside, the rain eases into a whisper, the tapping on the window slowing again. You watch as the shadows around the yard darken and soften beneath the street lamp's sickly glow, the edges blurring into night. The attic floor beneath you creaks softly, your own careful movement, but it fleetingly feels like it could echo beyond its usual place, like footsteps elsewhere, softly worn. You glance back at the weathered latch beside the window, familiar and unyielding, then down into the dark shapes outside once more. You wonder if the watcher, if there is one, slipped quietly back beyond the fence, into the trees where the sound dissolves. Or if the tapping you just heard was the wind playing the same tune all along, twisting fear into something near harmless. You settle down against the wall, the cool plaster seeping through your shirt, and you realize the house is quiet now. The rain has almost stopped altogether, leaving a heavy, expectant silence. The attic, the window, the night, they feel like parts of a puzzle you almost understand, pieces in no hurry to reveal the full picture. And it occurs to you that sometimes the hardest thing to feel, not wet on your skin or hurt in the dark, but the stillness after the sound has passed. What lingers there, just out of sight? What waits for you when you stop listening? If you're settling in with me tonight, maybe give a quick like or subscribe, and tell me where you're listening from. What time is it for you? Because here it's just past 2 a.m., and the rain has shifted from steady drizzle to a softer mist, clinging to the air like a wet blanket. You step out onto the narrow porch, feeling the damp wood cool and slick beneath your bare feet. The scent of rain-soaked dirt and pine from the nearby woods fills the air, sharp, clean, and a little wild. The kind of smell that roots you in the quiet, though your skin prickles from the sharp cold hovering in the night. The road stretches out before you, narrow and winding, swallowed by thick fog low enough to brush your ankles. Your eyes catch the faint glow of headlights emerging from the mist, a dull, ghostly pair of beams, slipping slowly along the curve just beyond the bend. No taillights are visible, only those two pale eyes pushing through the heavy night. You notice how the wet asphalt shines beneath them, slick and black, reflecting that pale, trembling light like a mirror. You pull your jacket tighter, feeling the water seep through the collar, and lean on the porch railing. The rain taps quietly now, a muted staccato on the tin roof overhead, like soft fingers drumming in Morse code. Each small sound feels magnified in the stillness, your breath visible in the cold. A distant owl's call, the scrape of a branch scraping the side of the house. The fog thickens, blotting out the surroundings and swallowing the vehicle as it gets closer. The headlights grow brighter, but the shape of the car remains patchy in the mist, as if it's less solid than it should be. You watch carefully as the car slows near the side road leading into the property's gravel driveway. No sound of tires crunching on gravel pierces the background, only the steady, patient tapping of rain. You wonder if the driver can see the curve clearly, or if the fog has pushed them dangerously close to the edge. Your fingers trace the rough wood of the rail, the grain damp and cold. The car pauses just beyond sight, hidden behind a curve and a cluster of dense birch trees blotting out the weak porch light's reach. You try to peer around the corner but only catch more fog. You can't tell if the engine is still running, or if the quiet was because the car slipped quietly to a stop. The street is empty, except for this lonely and half-seen arrival. Checking your phone, it's exactly 2:14 a.m., no missed calls. A little text from a friend from hours ago flickers on the lock screen, but you ignore it. You don't want distractions. You want to watch, to feel. The stillness returns, punctuated only by the faint drip of water off the porch eaves and the slow, irregular pulse of distant thunder far beyond the ridge. Somewhere nearby, the leaves shift in wet wind. You feel your heartbeat settle to match the rain's gentle rhythm, but beneath that calm, your muscles remain alert. There's something about headlights cutting through fog on a country road so late at night, the way they promise arrival, but also hint at secrets waiting just out of view beyond the trees and mist. The kind of moment where waiting feels endless, and the difference between being seen and unseen blurs. You wonder if whoever is out there knows they're watched now, or if, like you, they're waiting for something else. A sign, a sound, the night to shift again. And in that pause, you ask yourself, what do you see when all you have is a pair of headlights in the fog? Is it just a traveler passing through? Or something less visible, something that watches back? If you've just joined me tonight, go ahead and hit like or subscribe if you want, and tell me where you're listening from and what time it is for you. Because right now, it's nearly 3 a.m., and the rain has softened to a reluctant drizzle outside this old house deep in the countryside. You stand at the top of the basement stairs. The air smells cold and damp, heavy with the scent of wet earth and old stone. The wooden banister beneath your fingers feels sticky, the faintest trace of moisture clinging there like a hint of the storm outside. The basement door creaks softly in your hand as you push it open, the sound exaggerated in the quiet below. That wooden groan mingles with the distant, steady drip of water somewhere deeper in the darkness, making you pause. You can hear the rain pattern softly against the small basement window near the ceiling, light tapping that almost feels like a heartbeat, not loud, but constant, pulling you inside. Your eyes adjust slowly to the dim light. The single bare bulb hanging from a wire buzzes faintly, illuminating rough concrete walls streaked with tiny rivulets where moisture seeps through. The cold creeps under your skin immediately, threading its way down your back. You can taste it in the air, metallic and sharp, mixed with a musty smell of damp wood and something else, older, faded but distinct. like dried leaves crushed underfoot after a long rain. You pause just inside the doorway. On the floor, faint but clear, dark imprints in the dull sheen of wet concrete. There are muddy footprints, tracking inward from the basement entrance, crossing in no clear pattern, but deliberate and slow. Their edges are jagged, where the mud pooled, and dripped as if whoever left them came from outside recently. The dirt's still fresh. You crouch to look closer. Each print is oddly heavy, the toes splayed slightly, as though the weight shifted carefully but steadily. The narrow beam of your flashlight catches drops clinging to the low rafters, and somewhere, the distant streets hum faintly, but no closer footsteps interrupt the rain's steady rhythm outside. You breathe out slowly, the sound loud in your ears. The basement door clicks softly behind you, locked, secured against any sudden movement. You check the latch again, fingers finding the notch warm from recent use. It settles your nerves a bit. There's no sound, no shuffle, no shifting air, just the slow drip, tap, drip from the window, and the slight skitter of the wind brushing against the house frame. The footprints lead away from the door, heading deeper towards the old utility room where the pipes creak and sigh. You move forward, careful to avoid smudging those tracks, following them along the damp floor as the faint pulse of distant thunder rumbles low, almost swallowed by the rain. When you reach where the footprints stop, just shy of a narrow cellar door, you find the floor beneath a thin smear of water, reflecting the weak light in quivering shards. There are no other prints beyond, no signs of shoes dragged or hurried retreat. Just silence stretching tight, loaded with the weight of a question you can't quite voice. Was it someone who left quickly, or did they never move beyond that spot? And then, why would someone be here at all, this time of night, this side of the house, tracked in wet mud but never seen or heard? Outside, the rain continues its quiet tapping, and you realize how much time has passed without another sign. The house feels bigger somehow, heavier. You glance again toward the basement door, finger resting on the latch, heart steady but alert. Maybe it's nothing but mud and shadows, but sometimes that's enough to unsettle the calm, to remind you that some footprints, once made, never completely fade. And you wonder, who has been watching you from the dark corners no one dares to check? And how long have they been waiting there, just beyond the rain? If you're here with me tonight, maybe hit like or subscribe and tell me where you're listening from. What time is it for you? Because it's past midnight and the rain is pressing softly against the window beside you. Steady, distant, the kind that wraps around everything like a quiet chant. You've just arrived at the Airbnb, a small, two-story building set a few miles outside town. The drive here was slick, roads glistening under the yellow glow of absent streetlights, the kind of dark where only the car's headlights mark your way. Now you stand in a dim hallway on the second floor, the walls thin, painted a pale cream that feels strangely sterile in the fuzz of low light. You step forward slowly, boots muffled against the cheap carpet, soft but worn where others have been before you. The faint smell of damp wood and stale air curls around you, a reminder that this place has seen many nights like this. Somewhere far off, the rain collects in a gutter, a slow metallic drip that punctuates the quiet. You run your hand along the banister. It's cool and smooth, the varnish a little chipped, where time and hands met again and again. The light overhead flickers once, then holds steady, casting weak shadows down the narrow corridor. A floorboard creaks just ahead, a sound that freezes you in place for a moment. Not a question of whether it came from you, but from somewhere further down the hall. You catch yourself holding your breath, listening. The hallway stretches out in front, a narrow slice of shadow and faint light. Beyond the closed doors, you sense something just out of sight. Maybe a presence, or simply the memory of all those who have passed these halls before. The cold seeps in, settled deep in your bones, as the rain's rhythm picks up, tapping quick and light on the windows at the corridor's far end. Your fingers tighten around the phone in your pocket. Check the time. 12:47 a.m. No missed calls. You consider calling the host, but putting words into the quiet feels too sharp for now. Instead, you take a slow step forward, eyes adjusting to the muted glow. There's a faint scent now, something faintly woodsy, like pine or cedar, but carried on dampened air, mixing strangely with the must of fabric and old rooms. The walls seem to lean in, closing the space just a little more. As you pass the third door on the left, the light flickers again and you catch it, the faintest sound at the far end of the hall. A quiet tap, maybe a knock, or a gentle knock at a door you know should be empty. You stop, every sense alert, ears catching the subtle change in sound, the space where the rain seems to pause, then rushes back, heavier, swelling its quiet into something more insistent. The silence stretches around you, thick and expectant. You reach the window at the hallway's end, pressing your palm to the cold glass. Outside, the garden under the rain blurs into darkness. The wind picks up, a low whistle threading through the leaves. There's no sign of movement, no light beyond your own reflection pressed against the pane. The air feels thick, the waiting strange and familiar at once. You turn back slowly, the hall behind you fading into shadow, wondering if the quiet holds a visitor's breath or the gaze of an unseen watcher. You pause, thinking about how a place can feel empty and full at the same time, the way footsteps echo long after the person's gone, and how sometimes the most unsettling presence is not what you see, but what you believe might still be there, just beyond the reach of light. What do you hold on to when the light flickers in a quiet hallway, and the rain taps softly, endlessly, against a window you can't quite look away from? If you're here with me tonight, maybe tap like or subscribe and let me know where you're listening from. The time too, because it's just past 1 in the morning, and the rain is steady, tapping lightly against the kitchen window, a quiet but relentless rhythm that presses into the silence. You step barefoot across the cold tile floor, the chill seeping into your skin as you move slowly toward the kitchen. The house feels empty, yet thick with presence, like the air itself is holding a breath it's afraid to release. The scent of damp earth drifts faintly in, carried in by a cracked window left open just a fraction too long. It mingles with the faint smell of old wood and something else, something familiar but out of place. The slow drip from the faucet taps a soft, irregular beat, and the cool air makes the back of your neck prickle, the way it does when you feel watched before you see anything at all. You glance up, just in time to catch a shadow sitting rigidly at the kitchen table. The last glow from the hallway light sketches its shape. A figure seats slumped, but unnervingly still, like a photograph forgotten in time. It's hard to tell details. The rain-streaked window blurs the outline, casting everything into wavering half-forms. The chair creaks softly as you take a cautious step closer, but the shadow doesn't move. There's no breath, no shift in posture, only the faint pulse of silence that fills the room around it. Your fingers curl tight around the edge of the countertop, steadying yourself. The digital clock blinks 1:06 a.m., its cold green light too bright and too honest in the dim. You consider grabbing your phone to call someone, anyone, but the silence has already wrapped so tightly around the rooms that the idea feels like breaking the thread of something delicate, almost sacred. Instead, you watch. The rain's tapping outside shifts, a flicker of distant thunder pressing a low growl beneath the quiet. Your ears catch the soft creak of the back door latch, the subtle sound of a footstep in the side yard, Too soft for a stranger, but unmistakable. A deliberate movement just beyond the kitchen window. You squint, searching the fogged glass, but the yard is just dark shapes under the wet, shaking trees. The shadow at the table doesn't flinch. You note the way the faint light catches a single glint, maybe a watch or a ring, or simply the way the rain reflects, fractured and restless, through the kitchen window pane onto cold tile. There's a breath held somewhere, you realize, weighted and still. You wonder how long it's been there, seated in silence while you moved through these rooms. What watches and waits here with you, placed there by chance or by design? And in the quiet spaces between the rain's tapping and the slow creak of a latch, what do you feel is more real? The shadow you see, or the one you don't?